Welcome to Backstage with Randy Phillips. I am Randy Phillips. I'm your host, and I am honored that you would allow me some time into your life each and every month to share these stories. On today's episode, I get the privilege of talking with Jon Reddick. Now, I didn't know Jon well at the beginning of this process, but man, did I grow to love him. This worship pastor, recording artist, and songwriter tells stories of redemption and hope in his music, his art, and his life. And through this interview, I saw that lived out firsthand. You're going to love this conversation. But before we begin, I'd love to share a review from one of our listeners, Brisket King. That's right, Brisket King. And he said, fantastic. I love getting to look behind the curtain and into the lives of these incredible artists and leaders. Short, sweet, to the point. I love it, and I love me some brisket. Keep these reviews coming. We'd love to hear your 5-star thoughts. But enough of all that. Let's go backstage with Jon Reddick. Well, I'm Randy Phillips, and this is Backstage with Randy Phillips, my guest, Jon Reddick. Hello, Jon.
Hello.
I've never met you before.
Oh, it's great to meet you.
The pleasure's mine. You ever been to Austin, Texas before?
I've been before with If Gathering, actually.
Yeah.
A few years back.
Love it.
Yeah.
And this time you're on tour with Natalie Grant, Danny Gokey, Brandon Heath.
Tasha Layton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a lineup.
It's exciting. It's been fun. Really nice.
You've done the bus tour many times, or this is your first time?
I've done the bus tour a lot of times. I used to play keyboards like with Nicole C. Mullen and Mandisa, and so I got a chance to spend an entire day in the city and not have to do anything. And now it's a little different when you when you have to actually be the artist. But it's great to get to do it.
What's your favorite part about being on a bus and your least favorite part about being on a bus?
Being on the bus, technically, my favorite part is after everything's over, I like to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I kind of just like to make it for anybody who wants one. I don't know what it is. It's like, I'm reminded of my grandma.
I want to get one after this.
All right. I don't know if we have any left. But yeah. No, I also just like, there's something to getting into a space whether you've been there before or not, just kind of getting outside and appreciating something, the air, the space, the city. And I love walking into a place and meeting new people. So yeah, it's great to get to do.
What's your least favorite part about being on a bus?
Oh, being away from my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many kids you got?
3, 17, 15, and tomorrow, 9.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
What a wonderful family.
Yeah, it's a blessing.
When did you know people like to hear me sing?
They do?
Well,
no,
yes, they do. When did you know that? Like, people like to hear me sing.
No, you know what? I've been singing. I grew up singing in church. My mom was a musician. My dad was a pastor. So I just like to sing, and so I didn't know if people liked it or not.
You go get it because my dad's a pastor.
Yes. So it was kind of like this. You have to do it. But I don't know. I probably have wondered a long time in life, if that's true or not. I would be more on the music side, and my mom would be the singer, and my sister would be the singer. So, and when I saw that God was doing something differently in my life, I just tried to make myself available. I don't know that I'm always I try not to think about that. I probably did a lot of work to make sure that I don't let that get in my way.
Yeah.
So,
songwriting. When did you write your first song? Do you even recall? And what was it?
Yes. My dad sent me this. Actually, this past year, my dad sent me this this notebook piece of paper. I didn't know he still had. I was 9 years old.
9.
It was the worst song I've ever
No,
heard in
sing
my
a little
life.
bit. Can you sing?
Oh man,
Just a tiny bit?
Yeah, I don't remember how the. Oh yes, I do.
Let's hear it.
I'll give you the words.
Okay.
It talks about Thanksgiving.
Okay.
I can't
Oh, I
even
like
say it
that
out loud.
already.
Ooh, man, it's bad.
Let's hear it.
So I love to mess with my kids. They love to tease me about it because I say Thanksgiving is a time for giving. It's surely not a time for stealing.
Stealing.
You can give fresh food in the can to people who can't even afford a fan. It was
I
the
like
worst.
that.
No, you know.
What's wrong with that?
It's everything.
Well, I like it. If you put some music to that.
It had a melody. I just too embarrassed to sing it off.
Oh, so you grew up in Memphis?
I did. I grew up in Memphis. About 5 years old, we moved to Memphis, and so I spent most of my years there. Mm-hmm.
And the fusion of that city, that music, got into your soul?
Yeah, there's a lot of music there. A lot of people gifted there in music, and so it's a great place to. A friend of mine used to say it's a great place to learn how to play music. You know, it's just really great. Yeah.
What was the tipping point for you when you thought, I can make a living at this? I could be a professional musician, singer, writer.
You know, the third time I told God that I was done doing music. I was doing devotion for my kids, but I'd also 2 weeks prior to this, I said, God, I'm quitting music. I need to make sure I can do something to provide for my family, so I'll be doing computer science. You know, this is the conversation I'm having with God.
He was smiling.
I'm letting him know. I didn't look around to see what he was doing. I was just saying it and won't look. But and so I was doing just a devotion at my kids' school, and a lady came up to me and she tapped me on the shoulder. She said, "Hey, God just told me over there, it's clear as day that I'm supposed to help you." And I was like, and she said, "I know it sounds crazy, but God told me that I'm supposed to help you. So I have a little small, humble studio. Get my number from so-and-so, and then we'll work it out from there." And this humble studio was Sheryl Crow. That's who tapped me.
What?
Yes. And so, because our kids were in the same class, and I was freaked out. I mean, part of my issue was I was trying to figure out how to finish things in that era of my life. I had just gone through a season of not knowing how to do that anymore. And the last thing I wanted to do was go to Sheryl Crow's house and not finish anything. So I didn't call her.
You didn't call Sheryl?
No, I did not call. And I see a call on my phone one day. It said private. I was like, "Who is this?" I answered. She said, "Hey, Jon, this is Sheryl Crow here." I was like, "Oh!" And then she starts talking about, I can't even remember everything she said, but I remember at the end of the conversation, I had to text her back because I said, "Hey, you said something about Bob Dylan told you something at one point," and I just forgot everything else he said after that because I've never heard anybody tell me that they heard Bob Dylan talking.
Dylan.
So it was a crazy experience. But I think the biggest thing I learned from that entire experience is that that God had a specific purpose for me, and because I wasn't sure if people liked my voice, if I liked my voice, if I liked the gift that I had, I wasn't sure if it was professional enough. And then for that validation to come through somebody like Sheryl Crow, it kind of made me be like, oh, okay, maybe God, you are doing something. And then I just started seeing, he just started opening doors at that moment in my life. And I just, a mentor of mine said, walk through the doors that God is opening. And that's what I've been trying to do ever since.
So to a young artist out there who is unsure of, do I have what it takes to be full-time at this, to make a living at this, what would you say? Just be patient and let God open a door? Or do you knock on the door? Do you push the door open?
I would say what I tried to do for myself, because I'm not the professional, I can't give you the best advice in the world, but I can say that do everything you can to work on your heart,
Okay.
to work on your gift, and those doors. I mean, some people work through push. Some people are great at pushing doors open. That wasn't my testimony. If I push a door open, it had the swivel thing on it. So, but when it was time, God has a purpose for everything. So I say, work on our hearts, work on our gifts, and then
Good.
eventually God.
That's a good
shows
word.
us where to go.
I'm a push the door open guy. The
All right.
trouble with that is you have to keep them open. And you have 4 or 5 doors, and one of them's always closed. And you spend a lot of time trying to keep stuff open. But Revelation says when God opens the door, no man can shut it.
Mm-hmm.
That was a God door.
Mm.
All right. You keep hope alive. You wrote that?
I wrote it with a couple of friends, and I'm honored that you all sang that.
You sang it so much better.
Oh, no. I'm honored that you all sang that.
You keep hope. Oh, when we do that in concert, it's just hard to stay composed because the lyric is so powerful. Wow. Man, how did you write that? What was the catalyst for it?
Man, I'll tell you, I wrote it with a couple of friends, Jess Cates and Anthony Skinner, and something had just happened in Charlottesville. It's something just hard for the country, with division and everything. And somebody asked me, it happened on a Saturday. Someone asked me about it on Sunday morning, and I just remember saying, "Oh, I don't know, I didn't really think about it." I was kind of like pushing it off because I wasn't in a place to just feel all of it yet, and so I just kind of kept it close. But before I knew, I was talking about it, and I was like, "Oh, I said I wasn't going to talk about it. I'm talking about it. Oh no, I didn't want to talk about it." And but before I knew it, it was hurting me. I think the biggest thing, my son was 13 at the time, and I just couldn't fathom the disdain that people have for each other in our world altogether, specifically in our country. But my son is just this kid who's obedient. He believes in justice for anybody.
Yeah.
He'll speak up for anybody that's being wronged. And I just couldn't, in that moment, no matter how many times I'd experienced someone's disdain for me, but just thinking about it for him, I'm like, he's never done anything.
I know.
Like, and it tore me to pieces. And we had 5 minutes to go before service started, and I was behind the curtain sobbing. And I don't consider myself the sobber, but in that moment, I couldn't pull myself together. And finally, I just remember being like, I went out there, and in my mind, I was like, God, I just need something hopeful to sing. And the song didn't come then. I sat on the piano, and for one of the fewest times ever probably, I just sat and just took a moment of just worshiping or just singing what I felt in my heart so I could get myself together as I led others. I don't know, it was pretty interesting. And no one probably knew. We just thought we were just singing worship songs and John is going off the script again. But that same week, an answer to my prayer had been answered. I mean, God gave an answer to my prayer, and I didn't realize He was doing it. My friend said, "Hey, I feel like I was supposed to write this. I have this thing that God just gave me," and He came in with, "You keep hoping." So we started singing that, and I painted this. I didn't even realize till later. There's a painting on the cover that I painted, but I didn't realize that in that same week that we were writing that song, I had also been painting this painting that was also trying to get these feelings out. Didn't realize I did the same, did those things in the same week until my manager was like, "Hey, what about this painting for the cover of the CD?" I was like, "Oh, that is the song. I painted it at the same time. Didn't even realize it." So yeah, it's kind of crazy how things.
Well, thank you for a great song. We've loved it. Loved singing it, performing it.
Thank you all.
You do it way better than we do. We try.
No, whatever. No.
You mentioned painting your covers. When did you know that art and painting was a way that you could express emotion, feeling, what God was speaking in your life?
Wow, as a teenager, I would do these paintings, and I started veering into these paintings that were expressive, just of the different things that people have to go through. And so I set it down for a long time. I set art down for a long time and picked it back up when I was painting Spider-Man for my son.
I love that. I saw Spider-Man.
Oh,
I saw all of your renderings.
Oh,
It's beautiful.
thank
But
you.
Spider-Man stunned me.
oh,
The
man.
detail, it's just incredible.
That was when I look at that painting, I feel like God was teaching me a lot in that painting. I left it. There were places where I didn't know anything about what I was doing, all the way to the things that I learned, and they're all in the same painting. I just decided, instead of painting over one thing, just keep them all there. It was a moment of just learning how to do something in a different way for me. So yeah.
So self-taught?
I mean, you take high school art.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't in YouTube and
Yeah.
art history in college, but I just love to paint. So I didn't want to, I was a little scared to take some lessons, because then
Yeah.
I felt like I'd be too serious about
Yeah.
it and be restrictive of the art flowing out. So
Well, I looked at all of the paintings you've done. It's stunning.
thank you. Thank you
And
very
my
much.
daughter, Lily, she loves art, but she won't paint. And I'm like, paint.
Yeah.
And, I'm the guy that knocks open the door to
Yeah.
I'm going to set you up a website. And Dad, I can't do that. What advice would you give me as her father to say, put something on the canvas?
Man, I'll tell you, I can go 8 hours and all I get out is these two giant pears I love, and then I realize how much emotional energy I've just put into it.
Really?
It's a lot of energy, because now that's just me, because I'm trying to get it so perfect that I've had to teach myself, okay, go in there and just put a wash on the canvas and walk out. So I have to actually put myself in situations, or find the thing that actually sends me to say, okay, I'm going to dive into all this emotional energy again. Because I've painted, I finally started figuring faces out and everything, and in a certain way. Some of them are easy to paint. Some of them are challenging. I still don't like them. I'm just like, okay, but it takes a lot of energy for me.
Well, maybe that's what
yeah.
I'm hearing from her. I didn't realize. I just thought it was canvas and paint, but it is
Yeah. I would say, one of the things I found out are the things that make me get excited about something. So, for instance, if I go to the art store and I see a new color, I'm like, oh man, I get excited, and then that inspires me to go paint. So I don't open that can of paint. I just take it with me, because the excitement of, I can't wait to open it. So then I'll start doing something else so I can get to it. Or I have certain playlists that put me in the mind of Yellow Jackets. I'll play Yellow Jackets because it's like, it reminds me of that. And all of that stuff gets my brain going and all the endorphins popping. So then that'll make me. So just finding those things,
all right,
that make you excited to do it.
Love that.
Yeah.
Good word. God, turn it around. What a song. Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you.
What was the catalyst to get that song?
My dad and I, we were quite different. He'd say it too. Although my sister reminds me how much like him I am. I'm like, no, don't say that. But we're different in a lot of ways, though we do have our similarities. And we spent a lot of life not really around each other as much, or building relationship. And I just remember us having a conversation where our conversations are usually 5 minutes. This one went on for over an hour, and for some people that's regular. For us, it's never happened in life. And during this time, we also did something that had never happened in life. I was sharing parts of my story as a child, and he was also sharing parts of his story as a child. And so that intimacy started building in a way that was pretty healing for me in that moment, in that hour. And I remember getting off the phone, just thinking, man, how in the world can we not know each other's stories and yet they be so similar?
Yeah.
and just the traumas that had happened, And so at the end, I just remember tears in my eyes, tears of joy. I was like, man, God, feeling the power of this conversation. I was like, God, you really do turn things around. I remember it vividly, just looking up at my ceiling, like, God, you really do turn things around. And back then I had this keyboard in my bedroom, always on, just in case. And but one of the things I love to do, I love to play piano just to bring balance to my moment, and I was playing for 2 or 3 hours, and I just kept singing, God, turn it around, God, turn it around. And I remember being like, He is up to something. He is up to, God is doing something right now. And just tears running down my eyes.
Oh.
The biggest thing was I was so excited about what was happening. I wanted to, I started thinking about others who are going through hard times in life, and they don't ever, for decades, think it'll change. And all of a sudden, God says, Phew. And you're like, you gave that to me, God? And so it's like, you don't ever think it's coming your way. And all of it, like a lot of times, I spend a lot of times as a Christian thinking God can do it, but He won't do it. And a lot of that changed my life. Testimonies, that cynicism, God washed that away, and through Him doing things in my life and seeing Him doing things in other people's lives, it helped wash it away. So that's how it started. And then I called those same friends, Jess and Anthony, and
they're writers.
Yeah, they're writers. Yes. And Jess was like, what if you say, all of my hope? I was like, yes, man. Come on, man.
That's it.
Their joke is always, if John starts stumping on the floor, it's the song. Because I'm like, yes, it's so excited. But it's an honor to get to do that with them.
So He turned around your relationship with your father and other things in your life. Is the relationship continuing to flourish to this day, or is it?
It is. It honestly, last year it was. Is it? What year? What month is this? This year, earlier this year. A lot of people, we think that the beginning of a healing is just all of a sudden great and beautiful. Well, the reality was we had to work through the things, and so it was like a big dip. I mean, it was like all of my ooh, and we're riding below the radar for a minute, and so it was, man. The biggest challenge was singing that song, and all of a sudden, me needing that song in that moment.
I love that.
And hearing people's testimonies, me hearing their testimonies of walking out of critical care, or God healing their bodies, or marriages being turned around. Like God flooded me. Like God gifted me with a flood of testimonies of just what He's doing, and it strengthened my heart, strengthened my spirit. My dad and I, we're doing a lot better, and we're continuing to walk towards progression, or progress. Yeah. And then and I also get to share these stories with other people, and so I'm thankful that God gave us that song.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
It's touched a lot of hearts, including mine. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
You mentioned it earlier. At the Dove Awards some years ago, a few years ago, I think Kirk Franklin was supposed to say something, and it was time to go to commercial, and they cut him off, and he didn't like that. He was going to talk about racial reconciliation, and they cut him off. And then he went on this kind of, righteous anger concerning contemporary Christian music. Don't make a place for a black artist, a person of color. Have you found that to be true in your life?
Have I found exactly what to be true?
Have you found that contemporary Christian music, radio, has not opened their playlist and to put you on the air, and the things that a white artist has access to? Have you found, because of your color, that it's been harder for you to break into contemporary Christian music?
I think I'll tell you, when we first moved to Nashville, I remember hearing Michael Tate on the radio,
Yeah.
and I remember hearing Mendy's on the radio. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I didn't even know Michael Tate. I didn't know much about Michael Tate, but I remember hearing him on the radio. And I don't remember maybe hearing many more people. Now, I think I'll say I believed that I've always believed that reconciliation is possible. And I believe it's necessary. And I also believe that everybody is on their own continuum in this thing that we call
Yep.
unity, I also believe something I said to Danny Goki a few weeks ago. We were talking, and I said, man, one thing that happens in life is that we all have these traumas that give us a story.
Mm-hmm.
And from that story, we live out of that story. Or some may call it belief systems and all those
Yeah.
different things. And so I believe that when we live out of those systems, what's true to us is true to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we form our entire life based off of those truths. My therapist used to say, there's something that happened. Oh, is it die? Oh, I can't remember what it is. But it's also, basically, it's like there's one truth right here.
Mm-hmm.
There's another truth right here. They're both true.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they collide, and you find a larger truth.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Jesus is doing through unity. I'll tell you, I know there are a lot of different thoughts about COVID and everything else. I think in January, I remember saying, man, I remember almost losing hope. I said, I don't know if we're ever going to get to this place where we're truly unified. And I just remember praying like, God, I don't know what to do. Me personally, I've had situations where people, for whatever reason, I give them that, for whatever reason though, would treat me differently than they treat other people. Or I walk in the grocery store, somebody's pulling their kid close to them. I'm like, but then I walk in with the suit and they're like, hi. I was like, come in jogger sweats. Or I've been pulled over for different things, and I have friends. I have family and friends and everybody like that in law enforcement, and but I've had experiences, that some people would not understand.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Some people would not be able to comprehend, and that's okay. And some people might minimize. I believe in not minimizing a person's story. But I say all that to say this. I was losing hope, and I remember COVID coming. And right around that time, Ahmaud Arbery had just been murdered. And I remember people running for him across the country, saying, let's run. And then all of a sudden, the next thing that happened was George Floyd had been murdered. And I don't know really how to say this well, but there's something that happens when an entire globe is traumatized at the same time. If going through trauma together builds intimacy, then I'm convinced that our entire globe started building an intimacy, and I call it what humanity does.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things that ended up happening is when everybody is unsure of whatever this COVID thing is, and I had people saying, hey, what does this mean? Will we be alive in a year? Will everything go? Will we be, like people it ran the gamut of what people. Some people were like, I'm going to the grocery store. I don't know about you. And then some people were like, I am staying in my house. And I knew people of all the way across. And so, but what I realized was a lot of people were kind of like, man, this is too serious to be messing around with life right now.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things that happened was people started seeing people around the world, not just George Floyd, but across the globe when women were being mistreated, and just in all these different situations, people started seeing mistreatment as something we don't really have time for.
That's
because
right.
we're trying to stay alive.
That's right.
And so I think that helped. That gave me hope because I saw humans be human.
Yeah.
And I think if we continue to put Jesus in the forefront of everything, then the right and wrong just becomes Jesus and not Jesus. Like what we did before, what we thought before, we can always do something different tomorrow if we keep Jesus in front of us. And that's what I believe. It's the reason why Toby and I were writing this song together, show up and choose love. There are many times that we just won't even go and mess with it. But if we show up, I believe, and last thing on this, scientists and doctors, they say that one of the reasons we watch a movie or something like that, you all probably know this way better than I do, all the techs in the room, all the experts, but there's something about when you watch a movie where if it hits you right, you start feeling this scene. You're like, oh man, it scene gets you all riled up, because sometimes our brain can't really decipher between what's our story and what's someone else's story. Likewise, when we're sitting together, sharing stories, all of a sudden empathy builds. And somebody said, who are 3 people you wanted to meet? I was like, man, Stevie Wonder. And they said, ask questions. I was like, Stevie Wonder, maybe Michael Jackson, and whoever started the KKK. They're like, what?
Wait, what?
I was like, because I want to know
what was
how
that?
they got to
How'd
where
you
they
get there?
were. Yeah. Because that's the only way we can go forward, if we're sharing stories and hearing what has broken a person in their lives. And that's what I think.
Well, Jon, you're a credit to everything that is righteous and wonderful. You're a great man of God. You're an amazing musician. You've led the nation in worship. So I just... it's an honor to have shared this time with you.
The honor is mine.
Lord bless you, friend. And you keep hope alive. Did you ever remember the melody to the Thanksgiving song?
I do it the whole time.
Are you gonna withhold this from me?
All right.
This is Backstage.
This is bad. All right. For the whoever is listening to hear. Thanksgiving is a time for something. It's truly not a time for healing. At least I knew how to. Yeah,
that's good.
I knew how to.
I like that.
Like turns go to the sharp, the flat 9. But then the worst part was, you can, whatever kid was in, you can get fresh food in a can. Then the part that my kids love to make fun of is, to people who can't even afford a fan. So,
that's great. I love it.
Oh man, I'm gonna show this to my kids so they can just be mad at me. Why did you do that in public, Dad?
Well, tell them your elder asked you to.
Yes.
Thank you, Jon. Lord bless you, friend.
God bless you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me here.
Sure. Jon Reddick, outstanding. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. I'd love it if you'd go check out Jon's music and projects at jonreddickmusic.com. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the show to help spread the word. And if you're enjoying the podcast, tag us at life.familiy on Instagram and Facebook. We'll see you next time.